So we haven't heard anything regarding Mirror's Edge since Catalyst came out, and I'm not saying that there's no chance of it coming back, it's just that the chances are pretty low. And it sucks because I think this game series is a masterpiece and it really deserves more. Maybe someday EA will stop making copy and paste FIFA games and just focus on what the fanbase wants. But either way they sell better, so they will probably just keep making them. But as much as I dislike EA, I'm not here to trash on them, I'm just here to cite video game history. My name is Shadow and today we're going to be talking about the rise and fall of Mirror's Edge. In 2008, when first-person shooters were on their rise, it seemed like every single video game company made them. And believe it or not, EA was also in the business, battling the popular franchise Call of Duty with their own shooter series, Battlefield. And for big companies, taking risks sometimes pays off or doesn't. And at that time, the safest way to play their video game making game was to keep releasing shooters because they sold pretty well either way. But one particular EA-owned studio named DICE from Sweden decided to take a risk. One of the developers showed them a prototype for a first-person parkour game, and the concept of parkour in video games at that time being slightly unfamiliar still had some titles to its name, but at first glance you could clearly see that this project was something different, and a speed boost to all of this would be the fact that, well, like I said before, first-person games were popular at that time. So after a lot of planning, the studio decided to take on the idea despite knowing that it is pretty hard to construct and has quite a big chance of failure, and thus Mirror's Edge was born. Throughout the game's development, a lot of changes happened. As you can see from the prototype, Faith, the main character you all know and love, didn't look like she does now. And of course, that was one of the main changes. They gave her her signature hairstyle and her red fingerless gloves, probably to make her a more memorable character, in which they undoubtedly succeeded. And so, on November 11th, 2008, just barely a month after Dead Space, Mirror's Edge was released. When I first loaded into the game, it was like I entered a new world. The sights I saw and the heights I reached in this game were just incredible. The art style of this game was minimalistic enough to fit into the gameplay really well, and for a game based around parkour, this was one of the most important aspects. You see, parkour consists of getting from point A to point B in the shortest amount of time, using different platforms or obstacles to your advantage. And with all of these simple colors like red or orange in the midst of mostly white surroundings, it was easy to know where to go next instead of just running in a loop questioning your entire existence. The animations in this game were really smooth and it felt breathtaking just jumping from roof to roof while dodging bullets. But nothing comes without a flaw, and Mirror's Edge wasn't an exception. One of the flaws in this game was the story, and to many people's surprise it wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah, all the other characters except Faith and Merc were pretty forgettable, but I think that in a game based around running, all the story has to do is make it feel pretty cool to traverse a certain level, so the story did its thing. Although I agree with some people that the decision to make all the cutscenes drawn was kinda stupid. And the second most unknowledgeable flaw was the combat system. Fights were janky and felt weird, and shooting a gun was even weirder. Although I liked the finisher moves, it was a big no. The game overall sold over 2.5 million copies, which for a publisher like EA was kind of unsuccessful. Maybe it was because the game was overshadowed by Dead Space 2, which for your information sold 4 million copies. But despite the low sales volume of this game, it had developed a big friendly community that still actively play the game and share their experiences. After nearly 5 years since the release of the original Mirror's Edge, everyone had lost hope of ever getting another game. But EA DICE had other plans, and in June 2013 they announced a second Mirror's Edge game. This game was supposed to solve all of the flaws of the previous game and also give it a better graphical revamp. DICE wanted to make the next game groundbreaking for the series, and die-hard fans of Mirror's Edge were really excited for a new game to come out. It was shown on E3, had a few reveals and trailers, and so far things were going well. Hype was building, people were screaming.
Yes! Yes! Oh my god!
And so Mirror's Edge Catalyst was released on June 7th, 2016, and it was a success. Well, not entirely.
Why do you think it's taken so long to bring Mirror's Edge back?
Well, the first Mirror's Edge, it came out 7 years ago now, yeah, 8 years maybe when we're releasing, and I think it's taken us a lot of time to just figure out, you know, what do we want Mirror's Edge to be?
This game received a lot of positive feedback from new and OG players alike. And that's because, well, it was a really good game, just not as good as it could have been. During the development of this game, DICE made some controversial choices, like adding open world, a sketchy skill tree that a lot of RPG games nowadays use, and side missions. The graphics were beautiful and futuristic, however canceled the simplicity of vibrant red and orange colors on a mostly white landscape, which is what I talked about a few minutes back. And although the same red trailing glowing objects existed, due to the open world design and the severe amount of reflections in glass, it was sometimes hard to traverse the world when doing a mission, for example. And that's why many people prefer the simple yet outstanding design of the first game. Remember when I talked about the flaws of the first game? Well, DICE managed to fix them. Kinda. The combat system they created removed all the guns from Faith's hands, which improved the system a lot. It wasn't as janky as in the original and more balanced. It felt better overall, but a few people still prefer the combat of the first game. Up next, the story. This is an interesting bit, and I've just realized I haven't talked about the actual story at all. Well, Faith is a runner in a dystopia called City of Glass, where she is tasked with a lot of stuff. I'm not gonna go any deeper into the story of the first game because we are talking about the story of Catalyst at the end of the day, which, by the way, was supposed to be one of the biggest improvements. And despite the fact that we learned a lot more about Faith, the other characters didn't become much memorable. Maybe slightly. Birdman, Noah, Faith's sister who plays a big part in the story, and the one I remember the most from the sidecast, Slick Hood Glasses guy. Well, you get the point. The scenes were also properly made this time and not just a cartoon which plays at the start of each level. But the story was still kinda mediocre, serving as a connection string to the awesome parkour gameplay, which I'll point out is probably the best part of the game. The animations were insanely well done and Faith had a lot more epic finisher moves that were just really cool. The game also had some minor new features like the grapple hook and the collectible points. But now I want to get into the most important feature of the game that possibly decreased the rating and raised people's skeptical meter: the open world and side missions. In my opinion, there are games that are specifically made for open world. For example, Dying Light, which is my favorite game. Yes, I will mention this every chance I get, so deal with it and just wishlist Dying Light 2 on Steam, thank you. And there are also games that are specifically made to be non-open world, and Mirror's Edge was one of them. But when you add open world to a game that doesn't essentially need it, it can come out as a disaster. And in Catalyst's case, it wasn't that bad, but it still interfered with the success of the game. Okay, bear with me. In games that require you to do looting or crafting or picking the path you need to well pick, open world grants you the freedom to do that whenever you like. But in Mirror's Edge Catalyst, you mostly only do story missions anyway, and the side quests are generally just time trials to get from one place to another delivering a package, which doesn't require open world elements either, does it? There's also like these collectibles or something, but to be honest, they're a pretty dumb addition to any game. It makes you collect them for achievement that feels more like a chore. Even though exploring the world might be better with open world elements, the first game proves that you can still enjoy the gameplay without the open world matter. I already mentioned this, but at the end of the day, I think this game is really good and so is the original. And if for some reason you haven't tried it before, I recommend you to try it and just, breathe in this game's atmosphere. Now, to continue the saga. The reviewers weren't too keen on the game, and to be honest, they never are, but a lot of players gave it a really good score, and right now it sits at 85% positive feedback on Steam. But the game wasn't a really big success in terms of sales, only reaching about 2 million, which is even less sales than the first game got. And I think this was the breaking point of EA and the signal that they shouldn't continue. Now, I want to make it a habit to discuss the current state of the topic I'm talking about at the end of each video. So what's to come in the future of Mirror's Edge? Well, so the community is still partially intact and ready to make EA give this game another chance, and so am I. Join all the subreddits, tweet about it, comment about it, storm the EA headquarters. Okay, maybe don't, but if you're a Mirror's Edge fan watching this video, join the community and maybe, just maybe, we can get this game the actual sequel it deserves. But for now, I can say that this game series is a part of internet history. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and join the Discord server if you're interested in supporting me or the videos that I make. This video took me quite a while, but the next video I hope won't take me as long, so yeah, I'll see you guys later.